السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة المتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Welcome to the third part of the series in regards to the fiqh and the legal rulings of fasting. In session 2, we spoke about the different categories of fasting, and we spoke about the matters in relation to making the intention for fasts. One thing I do want to clarify just from last session is that we spoke about a certain group of fasts where there is leeway to make the intention up to midday. We spoke about what is meant by midday beforehand. Just in regards to that, you can only do that, even though it's not good practice to do so, waiting up to midday, but you have that leeway nevertheless. You can only do that if you haven't eaten or drank anything throughout the day. At that point, up to that point of making the intention, or done anything that violates the rules of fasting, basically. So if somebody had breakfast and then decides, you know what, it's midday, hasn't reached yet, I want to fast, you can't do so. So I just wanted to make that clear from now, because I didn't mention it in the last session. So inshallah today we'll be covering the rules of what breaks the fasts. Now, in regards to Ramadan, so we're specifically talking about the fast of Ramadan. Outside of Ramadan, if somebody breaks a fast other than the fast of Ramadan, well then you have to make up for that fast by doing qadha. So you make up by fasting that one time for the one that you've broken. Okay? But in regards to Ramadan, by doing something which breaks the fast, you will land yourself into one of two situations. Okay? So situation one is where you just do qadha. Qadha means that you make up for that fast that was broken or missed. Okay, we won't speak about the reasons of why you've broken or missed it. That will become another time later on. But just qadha, understand the term of what qadha means. Situation one is that you just do qadha, which means you fast one fast for the one, so outside of Ramadan, for the one that you've broken or missed. Or situation 2 takes place. Situation 2 is you do qadha, but along with your qadha, you have to do something called kaffarah. Okay, you have qadha and you have kaffarah. So what is kaffarah? Kaffarah is basically fasting for 60 consecutive days. Okay, kaffarah is an expiation where you have to fast for 60 consecutive days, which means that it's one after the other. Okay. Now both these situations we're going to now speak about in a bit more detail. But I wanted to say this now so that you are familiar with the terms qadha and kaffarah. But understand this, that if you break a fast, you're in one of two situations. If you break a fast of Ramadan, you're in one of two situations where you either have to do qadha or you have to qadha and kaffarah. This is important to mention because people who are in situation number 2 where they have to do kaffarah, they forget that they have to do qadha as well. So you have one more fast along with that. So let's try understanding the rules of kaffarah, and then after that we'll speak about how do we know in which situation we're in. If we're in situation 1 where we only do qadha, or if we're in situation number 2 where we have to do qadha and kaffarah. But first we'll speak about what is kaffarah with a bit more detail so you understand the rules. So kaffarah, what is it? Tahrir raqabatin walau kanat ghayra mu'minah. That kaffarah is to free a slave whether it be a Muslim or not. Okay, even if it's not a Muslim. So primarily speaking, someone that has to do kaffarah, give the expiation, well, that is in reference to freeing a slave, primarily speaking. But of course we don't have slaves today. So what happens in that case? فَإِنْ عَجَزَ عَنْهُ, if somebody is not able to do that, then صَامَ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ, they have to fast for 2 consecutive months. So which is 60 days. They have to fast for 60 days. If a person has started, so it's one of two situations. Either you fast for 60 consecutive days, or if you have started on the first day of the lunar calendar, well then you do 2 months. Okay? You do 2 months then. You follow the lunar calendar, but there's a good chance that you won't start on the first of the lunar calendar. So you do 60 fasts in that case, and they have to be consecutive, meaning that it's done one after the other. So even if you get up to fast number 59, and for some reason you don't do it, okay, there's no valid Islamic reason, Sharia reason for missing out a fast, well then you have to then start all over again. Okay, now there's a good important point that the Imam makes is لَيْسَ فِيهِمَا يَوْمُ عِيدٍ وَلَا أَيَّامُ التَّشْرِيقِ, that be considerate of the fact that there's that in between the 60 consecutive fasts, the day of Eid, any one of the two Eids don't come, or the days of Tashriq, which is the 11th, 12th and 13th of Dhul Hijjah. If that comes in between, well, that's a problem, you'll have to start all over again. So be considerate of that. And if there is a valid Islamic reason of why a person had to take a gap in the middle, then that's valid, but then speak to your local Imam in that regards as to what is considered a valid reason. For example, a menstrual cycle coming between will be considered a valid reason. Now, only if someone is not able to do this 60 consecutive fasts, okay, maybe due to ill health, that they're never going to recover from that ill health, or due to their age or something of the sort. And again, speak to your local Imam for more details. But then in that case, well, what do you do if you can't fast? Well, then it's an issue of feeding poor people. So you either feed 60 poor people, you give them their lunch and dinner, so 2 meals to 60 poor people, or you give one person the equivalent 60 meals, both 2 meals, 60 meals, both lunch and dinner, but you do for 60 days or so for that one person. Now, living in the UK and countries like that, it's unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely that you're going to find a poor person you'll be able to feed them for 60 days, or feed 60 poor people, give them lunch and dinner, 2 meals basically. It's unlikely. So what's more practical is going to your preferred charity and speaking to them, contact them. They will always have a section for kaffarah, and then you can pay the kaffarah through that. A few other points in regards to kaffarah. So there is one other thing. If some normally in fiqh books, when they talk about how much you're meant to give, they talk about it in the with the rules of how much weight of barley or wheat or dates and things like that. We're not going to cover that, just because, truth be told, no one's really going to go to the very few people are going to go to the local shops and then weigh out 2.2 kilos of different things and then work out what their equivalent price is. Just go online to the charity, and paying that will be a lot more easier. A few points in regards to the kaffarah. That if a person, they break a fast, so they break one fast which necessitates the kaffarah and qadha, then it's understandable that they have to do the 60 consecutive fasts, right, the kaffarah, and as along with the qadha. But what happens if a person has, say for example, broken 10 fasts of Ramadan, and each one of them necessitates qadha and kaffarah? Well, do you have to then times that 60 by 10, which is 600 fasts, and that 2 consecutive ones? Each one of those sets of 60 will have to be consecutive. Is that the case? The answer is no. If you in one Ramadan have broken, or doesn't matter how many Ramadans, if you have broken X amount of fasts of Ramadan, and they all of them, or some of them, many of them, there's a number of them where you are liable for qadha and kaffarah, you can do the kaffarah once, meaning 60 consecutive fasts, and that will pay off or tick off the duty of doing the kaffarah for all of them. But if you say, for example, last Ramadan you broke a fast where you are liable for the kaffarah, and you even did the kaffarah throughout the year, okay, so you did the 60 consecutive fasts, and then this Ramadan you broke it again and you had to do the kaffarah, well then you'll have to do the kaffarah for that fast again, okay. So that's an important point. to make. Now, how do we know if we're in the situation where we have to execute the kaffarah and qadha, or just the qadha? So again, remember, you're in either one of the two situations where you just do qadha or you do qadha and kaffarah. So how do you know, in a nutshell, as to which boat you're in? So in regards to those people that have to do qadha and kaffarah, so qadha, then this applies. Okay, if you eat, drink, or take medicine intentionally, so if you eat or drink anything, it goes down the throat. Okay, if it goes down the throat and is taken intentionally, well, that will break the fast, and you have to qadha and kaffarah. Along with that, if you take medicine, okay, and either goes down the throat, or it goes in through one of the cavities of the body, okay, so that's like the private parts, the back passage, the mouth, the nose, the ears, if it goes through any of those cavities, then it will break the fast, and you've taken intentionally, so you will have to qadha and kaffarah, unless there was a valid reason for you to take the medicine. So if there's a valid reason that you needed the medicine, then it's different, okay, then it's only qadha. But if there's no need for the medicine to be taken and you took it, then it will be kaffarah. So any kind of food, drink, medicine that's taken down intentionally will break the fast. Now, if anything goes into any of the cavities of the body and that cavity leads to the stomach or the intestines or the brain, well then, and is taken intentionally, well then again you'll have to do qadha and kaffarah. If someone has intercourse in one of the two passages, in any of the two passages, the front or the back passage, even though it's haram to have intercourse in the back passage, but if somebody does so intentionally, well then they will have to qadha and kaffarah. One thing to mention is that to reach or the point of orgasm or to ejaculate is not a condition, is just the mere penetration. Okay, just mere penetration will make both parties, they will have to give the qadha, they will have to qadha and kaffarah. So they're basically the rules. So basically, is anything that breaks the fast and is done intentionally, well then a person will have to do qadha and kaffarah. Okay, if someone did any of these acts which break the fast, okay, but it was done either through forgetfulness or not forgetfulness, it was done through forgetfulness or mistake, well then it will be qadha. Now in the case of eating or drinking or having intercourse, when a person's forgotten that they're fasting, well there's an exception to that where it hasn't broken their fast, okay, and that's because of a certain hadith in that regards. But if anything goes down the throat or through the cavities, like we mentioned before, but it wasn't done on purpose, okay, it wasn't done on purpose, it wasn't done intentionally, it was by mistake, then you only do qadha. Or if you had to take the medication for some reason, or you had to eat due to a certain dire situation, then it's only qadha, okay. Now in regards to that, a few points that I would like to clarify will be the follows. So say for example, two people, they kiss one another and they exchange saliva, okay, whilst in the state of fasting. Well, they've kissed intentionally, and there's been an exchange of saliva, and that means that saliva of course been swallowed. So in that case, the kaffarah and qadha is going to be due upon both people. But if somebody has kissed, there's been no exchange of saliva, then there's even if they've been touching each other, then there's no qadha, there's no kaffarah, you haven't broken the fast, okay. If somebody, for example, masturbates and ejaculates, well, that will break the fast, but there's no kaffarah. Okay, it's definitely prohibited in Islam doing so, but it's only a qadha that a person will need to offer and not kaffarah. Along with that, a few other points in regards to qadha. If a person vomits, okay, unintentionally, meaning that it's just come out, you're not feeling well, and a person vomits and is more than a mouthful. You'll hear that term often. It's more than a mouthful. A mouthful is basically something where you couldn't stop it. Okay, you couldn't stop it. It just come out. Well, then it will break the fast, but there's no kaffarah. Okay. In the menstrual cycle, a person has been fasting for X amount of days, but then during the fast, the menstrual cycle starts. When your fast has been broken, is only qadha and no kafara. Okay. Somebody is going to the dentist. Okay, and for whatever reason the saliva is swallowed, or the bleeding takes place in the gums or the tooth, and that blood has gone down the throat, or the the water, and the water or anything else they've given to you goes down the throat, then that will break the fast. But because it wasn't done intentionally, it was done by accident, well then there will be no kafara, just qadha. So a person needs to be careful when it comes to exams in the private part, so whether it's in the back passage or the front passage. If something dry has been inserted, can have separate rulings. For example, a tampon. So if a tampon is inserted and is dry, it won't break the fast unless the whole tampon goes in and into the private parts. If some kind of a lubricant or gel is inserted, or something that is wet, has some discharge on it, is inserted into the private parts, whether it's the front passage or the back passage, then it will break the fast, but there's no kafara because it wasn't done on purpose. And Allah knows best. It's the lubricant or the moisture or something like that that has caused the fast to break. That's the difference, okay, between something dry and something that's not dry. Or some medicine that's been inserted into the body, then again it will break the fast, but there's no kafara to be done because you need to take the medicine. Same with like asthma pumps or inhalers. If somebody takes the asthma pump, because it's going down the throat, it will break the fast. Now, even though it's not food or drink, it is medicine and it has a perceptible body. So that's the difference here. Something that has a perceptible body, it will break the fast. So same thing goes with like smoke. Okay, smoke will break the fast if it's taken in intentionally. Okay, you're purposely staying around the smoke, it will break the fast intentionally. So if you're taking it intentionally, it will break the fast. But if you're walking along the street and there's smoke and you can't avoid it, it won't break the fast. Okay, that's something that's out of your control, and Allah knows best. Now there are a few things that people normally ask and they don't break the fast. So things like giving blood samples, okay, or donating blood. You go to the doctors or something and you give blood for a blood test, that won't break the fast because nothing's going into the body. Having some sort of an injection, now this will depend on the injection itself. Generally speaking, the answer will be no, it won't break the fast, but it will depend on the nature of the exact injection. If it's something that's being, for example, injected straight into the stomach, then it will break the fast. We mentioned those conditions before. Cupping doesn't break the fast. Acupuncture or something like that will not break the fast. Brushing your teeth with toothpaste. So even though there's taste inside the mouth, it won't break the fast unless you swallow that the toothpaste. If you swallow the toothpaste, then it will break the fast. So be very, very careful. Okay. Although some scholars will mention that there is dislike to use it, because in one hadith the Prophet mentions that the smell of a person from a person's mouth who's fasting is beloved to Allah. So some scholars mention that it's better not to. But say for example you're working something, you need to brush your teeth. By all means do so, but then be careful. Okay, be very careful. If the toothpaste is swallowed, okay, then and the taste is taken down, then the fast will break. Same thing with food. Okay, if for whatever reason there's no good reason to do this, but someone just for argument's sake tastes the food and spits it back out, okay, I mean it's left on the tip of the tongue, it won't break the fast because it's not been swallowed, it's not gone down the throat. Okay, nicotine patches, they don't invalidate the fast because it's not going through any of the cavities of the body, and it doesn't affect the brain or the stomach. It doesn't go towards that, and Allah knows best. And there's normal common things that people ask, and I thought I'll mention them. Using lip balm or anything like that, it won't break the fast unless you're swallowing the actual lip balm. Then it's an issue. But you need to be careful that anything goes down. So even using kuhl. So kuhl is I'm not sure what the right word is in English, but the Prophet ﷺ would use something to put into his eye. Eyeliner is not the right word, but sometimes what would happen is that you put that kuhl on, and sometimes some of the parts of that kuhl can come out the throat, and that doesn't break the fast because there's a specific hadith in that regards. So same goes the eyeliner as well. Eye drops or using contact lenses, they don't break the fast. Ear drops, in regards to ear drops, well, according to the research of Mufti Rafi Uthmani, and this is mentioned by Wifaq ul-Ulama, it's mentioned that ear drops will not break the fast, but using oils and things like that, putting it into the ear will break the fast, according to most scholars, if not all. Using perfume or fragrance will not break the fast either. And like I said, kissing or embracing doesn't break the fast unless there's an exchange of saliva or an emission of bodily fluids, meaning that one ejaculates. Then it will invalidate the fast. And generally speaking, if there's a danger that one will not be able to control themselves from breaking the fast, then it's disliked that a person should stay away from it. But if they're able to control themselves, then yes, a person can embrace their spouse or kiss them. Of course without the exchange of saliva, and it doesn't affect the fast, and Allah knows best. So we leave up to here, inshallah. I will pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah keep us all safe where we don't break our fasts, and Allah keep us healthy so that we can fast and take maximum benefit from the month of Ramadan. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.